y'all. It's Maciej back here in my kitchen. We're going to do another brew guide today, and as you might have guessed, it is for an auto drip machine. So an auto drip machine, something I imagine most of y'all are familiar with. Really a wonderful way to make coffee, and it basically does the same thing that a pour over does, except instead of myself or you pouring from a kettle, we have a fun little robot here that does that for us. As far as the kind of coffee that this makes, it really makes pretty much the exact same kind of coffee as a pour over. So you have paper filters, you have water coming down from the top raining onto the coffee in those filters. So because the filtration is the same and get the same kind of clarity as you would from a pour over, you won't get the kinds of oils or silt that might come through in a French press, just a nice clean cup. The main differences between an auto drip machine and a pour over, besides the obvious, one is instead of having one stream going as a person pouring with a kettle would, this particular auto drip brewer, and many of them have a little shower head, which is actually pretty good for distributing water, arguably better than a single stream, although those can do a great job too. And the other thing is that instead of us being able to control how fast or slow we're pouring, this machine will basically pour at the same rate the whole time. So you can't pour faster or slower midway through. You're not controlling it. So the only thing that you're going to be really able to control as far as figuring out this recipe, only two things I should say, is the ratio of your water to your coffee and grind size. So once you settle on kind of a basic ratio, I'll tell you the one we're starting with in a second. The way you're going to control your results then are just figuring out your grind size, going finer or coarser as the case may be. So we have 61 grams of coffee here. You know, if you've watched these before, that I've measured them out to get a volume measurement for whole beans, but I have also weighed them out. So this is about 3/4 of a cup of coffee beans, but 61 grams is what I've measured. And then we have also weighed out here 975 grams of water, which is going to be approximately 34 ounces. And on this machine, it's going to be 6 cups. So that's kind of an interesting thing about coffee makers, that they use this measurement called cups, and it doesn't mean cups in that that's how much coffee a regular person would drink in their cup at a time, because they end up being about like 5.5 ounces. Usually for most US coffee makers. And it doesn't mean cups as in like the actual volume measurement cups either. So for a cup on one of these coffee makers, usually count like 5 ounces. So we're gonna fill this up basically to the 6 cup line. That's how much water I have in here. And that'll give us about 30 ounces of coffee, of finished coffee. It's about 33 ounces of water. So this is basically, if I was brewing coffee for 3 people, this is the recipe I would use. If you're gonna make more or less with this machine or a similar machine, you'll just have to divide the amount of coffee by the same amount. And yeah, that's how you get a different ratio. So we got our water in there. Now let's grind some coffee. I'm gonna grind this coffee like medium coarse, slightly coarser even than I would do for like a Chemex, just because it's going to take a while to brew this coffee, so I don't want it to get over extracted by grinding too fine. So I'm going to turn around and do that real quick, and I'll be right back. That's my 61 grams of coffee. I'm going to take out this basket. These are filters that are usually called 8 to 12 cup filters as opposed to the 4 to 6 cup filters. And you'll want to make sure that you have filters that are big enough for whatever basket you're using, just because you don't want grinds to kind of go over the top of them and get into your coffee. So this particular coffee maker has a flat bottomed basket, which I do tend to prefer. But there are plenty that have baskets that kind of come to a point in the middle, and those make delicious coffee as well. So Not going to pre-rinse my filter. Just going to get that coffee in there. Level it out. And then I'm going to make sure that the filter doesn't fold in on itself and just push it all the way in there. That kind of clicks in. All right, now I'm ready to go. I'm just going to push this button. And so we need to wait for this water to heat up. This particular coffee maker actually does that pretty quickly, heating up the kind of first small amount of water that you need. And yeah, then it's going to go for about 4 minutes-ish to get all the water out, and then it's going to go drip through for another minute or so. So nothing to do now but wait. I guess we can talk about movies. I guess we can talk about, I don't know, baseball. There probably won't be baseball season anymore when you're watching this. But you see pretty quickly some of that water has gotten hot enough to start dripping through already. Yeah, I think we might have to fast forward past this part just a little. Alright, so my tank is empty here, meaning that it's basically done dispensing water. So now we do still have some water left. Woo, that's hot steam. We do still have some water left here, and it's going to take a few more seconds to drip through. We don't need to miss out on any of those last bits. So I'm just going to let it drip through for a second. All right, so cleanup, pretty easy for this. We're just going to take this out and throw away the filter as you would pour over, really. But let's take this off. I'm going to put this here. I'm going to turn off the brewer. We'll still have some liquid dripping here. There is a hot plate on this brewer, and some brewers do have hot plates. And if the reason you got your coffee maker is so you could make coffee in the morning and kind of drink it throughout the day, totally do not begrudge you use of that hot plate. I will say that as far as how it affects flavor, keeping that brewed coffee hot, especially adding heat to it from below, can make some of the acids in the coffee, the chlorogenic acid specifically, which is kind of like the acid that gives you that kind of coffee flavor. It can make that acid break down a little and lead to some astringent, not so pleasant flavors, and oxygen, which this cap will help with. Can make it oxidize and taste a little stale down the line. So, again, if you're one person and you have one of these coffee makers, that's probably why you have it, so you can brew coffee to last you a while. But if you have a few people and can brew a batch on this for a few people, you might as well brew it a few times throughout the day to get like the ideal result. So let me get a mug. Let's see, what are we feeling here? Let's get this old trusty little mug. Pour some coffee into it. Gonna give it a swirl. Make sure everything's super integrated. Not a great swirl, but you know. Pour a little coffee for myself. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the kind of coffee you get from one of these, if you put the same coffee into this and a pour over, and you use a grind size that makes sense for each thing, you should really get a pretty similar coffee. Because again, filtration is kind of one of the main differences in brew methods. So similar filter, similar style. Let's give this a taste. Whew, that's still a little hot. That said, already some really nice acidity coming through, which again, because of the paper filter, the acidity has room to stand out there. This is a Kenyan coffee that I'm drinking. It's really tasty and bright, sweet, savory, all that good stuff. Cool. So, auto drip, they're wonderful. I love them. Happy to have one in my kitchen. And I think that's it for that. So we'll see you next time. Enjoy your coffee.